Let's learn some advanced vocabulary from the news, and let's practice the American accent so that you can sound like a native speaker. I will teach you some useful words, and I will help you correct some of the most common pronunciation mistakes. We will look at a news article about new research from Harvard University about the connection between technology and loneliness. The headline of the article is, "How Tech Created a Recipe for Loneliness." Have you been pronouncing this word correctly? The E is not silent. We say recipe. A common mistake that I hear from my students is to pronounce this word like this word. Listen to the difference. Receipt. By the way, that P is silent. We don't say receipt. Receipt. Recipe. Repeat after me. Please give me the receipt. Please give me the recipe. And the subheadline of the article is, "Technology and loneliness are interlinked," researchers have found, stoked by the way we interact with social media, text messaging, and binge watching. To link is to connect and to join, and interlinked is connected together or having an effect on each other. The article says, stoked by the way we interact with social media. To stoke is to cause something to increase, or to fuel by adding energy or by adding encouragement. And we can use it like this. We can say to stoke fear, to stoke anger, to stoke envy. And we can say rising oil prices have stoked inflation. The leader's speech helped stoke the crowd's excitement. Or we can say negative media reports only stoke the fire of public anger. It also means to add more coal or more fuel to a fire. We can say, I stoked the furnace at night. We stoke the coal. And it's also a slang word. What does it mean if I say, I'm stoked? Or I was really stoked about it? It means I was very excited about it. Let's listen to the way some native speakers used it in this context.
I was stoked. So excited.
So when I saw that this was going to be in the box, I was stoked.
Because I wanted to get everybody's opinion and get people stoked to be involved in it.
The article said, stoked by the way we interact with social media, text messaging, and binge watching. The word to binge is both a verb and a noun. And you probably know the meaning of the expression binge watching. I think it's become an international expression. Do you say the same thing in your language? When you watch many TV shows in a row with no break. But what does binge actually mean? To binge as a verb means to do something excessively or for an extended period. For example, eating or drinking or watching something. We can say, I sometimes binge on snacks when I'm stressed out. He tries not to binge on video games during the school week. They binged on the new Netflix series and watched all the episodes in one day. And as a noun, binge means a period of excessive or uncontrolled activity, especially eating or drinking or watching something. We can say, after a long diet, he went on a binge and ate all of his favorite foods. So we say on a binge, to go on a binge. He went on a binge and drank too much at the party. Do you binge on anything when you're stressed? What do you binge on? Let me know in the comments. Let's read that again so that you have a chance to practice your accent. I will read and I will give you a chance to repeat after me. How tech created a recipe for loneliness. Technology and loneliness are interlinked, researchers have found. Stoked by the way we interact with social media, text messaging, and binge watching. Let's look at the first paragraph of the article. We will practice reducing vowel sounds, unstressed vowels. Over the summer, Laura Marciano, a researcher at Harvard, interviewed 500 teenagers for a continuing study investigating the link between technology and loneliness. The results were striking. How do we pronounce the name of this university? How do we pronounce the two A's? Are they the same or are they different? You say it. Listen, Harvard, Harvard. They are different. The second A is reduced because it's part of an unstressed syllable. So we don't say Harvard, we say Harvard, Harvard. Following this rule, let's look at one more American university. How do we pronounce this one? You say it. How did you pronounce the O? Did you say Stanford or Stanford? The O is pronounced exactly the same as the second A in Harvard. Listen, Harvard, Stanford, Harvard, Stanford. Let's look at one more Ivy League university. How do we pronounce this one? You know how to pronounce that O, don't you? You say it. Did you say Princeton? It's not Princeton, it's Princeton, Princeton. Let's say all three. Harvard, Stanford, Princeton. The A and the two O's are pronounced exactly the same because they become the schwa sound, the sound, because they are part of the unstressed syllable. Repeat after me. Stanford, Harvard, and Princeton are American universities. You say it. How did you pronounce the second A of American? It's a schwa sound. We don't say American, we say American, American. Before we continue learning some more vocabulary, let's look at some of the other reduced vowels of this paragraph. Over, summer, researcher, all of those E's are reduced. Harvard, interviewed. We stress the first syllable, therefore the E is reduced. We don't say interview, we say interview, interviewed. Teenager. Which vowel should be reduced in this word? You say it. We stress the second syllable, so we reduce the O. We don't say continuing or continuing. We say con. Continuing, continuing. How about this word? You say it. Do we stress the first syllable or the second syllable? We stress the second syllable, therefore the first E is reduced. B. We don't say between, we say b. Between, between. And one more word. Which vowel should be reduced in this word? The two O's in this word are not pronounced the same. We stress the first O, take na, and what happens to the second O? It gets reduced. It becomes a schwa sound. It becomes an sound. Listen. Technology, technology, technology. And now let's practice saying them in context. Let's read the paragraph. I will read and then you repeat. Over the summer, Laura Marciano, a researcher at Harvard, interviewed 500 teenagers for a continuing study, investigating the link between technology and loneliness. The results were striking. And what does striking mean? It means very noticeable and often in an impressive or surprising or attractive way. We can say, her striking appearance made her stand out in the crowd. She's very striking. He has a striking resemblance to his grandfather. We can also say strikingly. She's strikingly beautiful, or they are strikingly similar. And the verb is to strike. So strike, struck, struck. We can use it in the passive voice. He was struck by her beauty. I was struck by the cost of living. It was striking how expensive it was. It was strikingly expensive. And what happens when lightning hits someone? They are struck by lightning. So to strike means to hit with force. Let's go on to the next paragraph and let's learn some more vocabulary. Americans now spend more time alone, have fewer close friendships, and feel more socially detached from their communities than they did 20 years ago. 1 in 2 adults reports experiencing loneliness, the physiological distress that people endure from social isolation. Let's look at the word detached. It's used as an adjective here, socially detached. Americans feel more socially detached from their communities than they did 20 years ago. To attach means to connect, and to detach is to separate or to not be connected. And a person who is detached is emotionally distant and emotionally disconnected, not reacting, not getting involved. And you can also use it for physical things. You can say, the house has a detached garage in the backyard. Or you can also say, I felt detached from the conversation and I didn't participate. She gave a detached response, not showing any emotion. He was detached from the group, preferring to sit alone. So socially detached means not connected with other people. And let's look at the pronunciation of this word. Don't confuse it with the pronunciation of this word. In this word, the PH is pronounced as an F. Physiological, physiological. And in this word, the P is silent. Psychological, psychological. Physiological has to do with the body's physical functions, such as breathing or your heartbeat or digestion. And psychological relates to the mind and to the emotions. It's related to our mental and emotional health. Drinking enough water is important for our body's physiological functions. Moving to a new place can be a big psychological adjustment. So remember, the P in psychological is silent. But this article talks about physiological, the physiological distress that people endure from social isolation. And distress is extreme unhappiness or suffering or worry or even great physical pain, often caused by a difficult situation. Distress can refer to both emotional or physical discomfort. We can say, she was in great distress after learning the bad news. Or you can use it for physical things. A panic attack can include chest pain and abdominal distress. And in this sentence, physiological distress, that refers to the physical and biological strain or discomfort that the body experiences as a response to loneliness or social isolation. And the article uses the verb to endure. Do you know what that means? The physical distress that people endure from social isolation. To endure means to be in a difficult or painful situation for a long time. I had to endure a long wait at the airport. He endured the pain of his injury, but he kept playing. Or you can say, how much longer will I have to endure this? It's too difficult to endure. Let's read the paragraph again so that you can practice your accent. I will pause to give you a chance to repeat. Americans now spend more time alone, have fewer close friendships, and feel more socially detached from their communities than they did 20 years ago. 1 in 2 adults reports experiencing loneliness. The physiological distress that people endure from social isolation. If you'd like to continue reading the article, I have included the link in the description below. To continue working on your English fluency, I recommend that you keep reading different topics in English. I suggest that you read on a wide variety of subjects, not just your area of specialty. You already know those words. Read something very different from that, and that way you can become well-rounded. And then you'll be able to have conversations with native speakers on a wide variety of topics. And that's true fluency. Thanks for watching and keep practicing. Take your English to the final level of fluency with my online courses. The American Accent course, the 400 Advanced Words You Must Know for Fluent English course, and the Phrasal Verbs for Fluent English course. Go to accurateenglish.com.